Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet a corporate headhunter. She's very good at her job. She's been doing it for 2 decades. Her incredible story just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
All right, there are a lot of corporate headhunters in Dallas, but not all of them hold themselves to a higher standard, a white glove treatment, you might say, and that's my next guest, Brenda Siri. She's the president and CEO of Corporate Connections. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I want to hear your journey. So you've been doing this for 2 decades. How did it start?
Anyone who started in human resources at the time that I did, it was not typically a journey that you chose for yourself. It was typically that you started off somewhere in maybe office management and you were asked to join the human resources team. So that's really where my journey started. I quickly learned that I really had a knack for people, finding the right people, and technology changed things, because when I first got my first job, probably much like you, I got my job by looking in the newspaper, right, for the perfect ad. And during the process of the beginning of my career, Monster came out and started to change the world of human resources, finding the right talent for companies, and that's really where my journey into talent acquisition started.
And let's talk about the process, because I know you're a perfectionist, at least when it comes to finding the right candidate. And there are many headhunters out there who they're just trying to get a quick paycheck, but they're shortchanging themselves, because if that candidate fails in 3 months, that firm will never use them again. So talk about your methods.
Right. So it's really important to me to develop relationships first with my clients. I'm not looking for a quick fix. I'm looking for a long-term relationship, and that is going to start by finding the best talent for them. So I meticulously, when I first bring a client on, I spend a lot of time with the client first. I want to know about their culture. I want to know about what is going to make the right fit for the organization in any candidates that I bring forward. After I have a clear understanding of my client and my client's needs, once I begin searches looking for the right people for them, I spend a lot of time interviewing candidates, making sure that I am only putting the best of the best in front of them. Sometimes I'll take up to 2 hours to interview candidates for my clients.
Absolutely. And you can work on deadline. You were telling me a wonderful story about a client that you kind of rescued, but you had a very tight window.
I did. I have a client who is a private equity firm, and they had a need for a vice president of human resources. I was asked on a Thursday to start this search, but this role was going to report directly to the CEO, who was planning on leaving for a 3-week vacation the following Tuesday. So I pretty much spent every waking hour looking for the right candidates, interviewing these candidates, and put 6 candidates in front of him to interview before he left the country, knowing that once he made his decision on his final 2, they would need to interview with about 7 other leaders within that company over the course of the next 2 weeks. And I successfully did that, and he found the perfect match who works for him today.
Wow, what a triumph. And I like it that you kind of be nimble that way, because many larger companies could not do the same thing. We're going to show some video from our library of the job interview process, and I want to talk about the art of doing a great job interview. I know you do some coaching with your candidates. What are some do's and don'ts that people should observe?
You know, it's interesting. Today, a lot of interviews don't occur in person. If they do, it's later in the process. So most interviews do start over video. I always tell my candidates and even my students at UT Dallas that it's very important to have your camera at eye level. That you don't want to be looking down into the video. You don't want to be looking up. You really want to be face forward with the video. You also want to make sure that you're making great eye contact, and you want to almost pretend that that camera is a real person that you're talking to during the interview process.
And Brenda, I know you're very passionate about making sure that your candidates do their homework, because so many candidates come in and they don't even know what the company does.
That's true, and it's really important to understand the person that you are interviewing with. You want to know a little bit about their background. Maybe there's something that you have in common, same school, or common interests. So you do want to know about the person that you're interviewing with, what their tenure has been with the company, what their journey was to get to where they are today, along with understanding the company itself, their mission, their values, their products, so that you know that that's a company that you want to be part of.
And she's not just a very wildly successful corporate recruiter, she's also an author. I'm going to hold this up, and we're also going to show a graphic. So, Why Are You My Grandmother? Yes. Tell us about this book.
So, almost 10 years ago now, my son, he is one of 3 of my children, and he has had to battle for many, many years with addiction issues. And he met a young lady, and surprise to me, 6 weeks before my grandson was born, I found out he was coming into this world. And, it was scary. I didn't even know the person who was this child's mother. I didn't know what to expect. I only knew about my son's demons that he'd been suffering with for years. And I took a very slow approach in getting to know her and asking if I could have this child in my life, which she very graciously allowed me to. Fortunately, she did not have the same problems that my son does, and she's always been an amazing mother. My grandson doesn't really know his dad. He's been an absent father, although my family has always been very involved in his life. And I knew that there would come a day that he would want to know who I was. He would want to understand why I was in his life, but I didn't know exactly when it would happen. And when he got into kindergarten and started learning about family dynamics, it started becoming, a question to him who I was, because he's never called me grandma, far too young for that. And so my grandma nickname, or name that he's always called me, is Gigi. So he just knew me as a lady in his life named Gigi who really loved him. We always had a great time together. But when family dynamics started coming into play during school, and the questions started coming, his mother and I talked about the best way to explain that he didn't have a father and who I was in his life. And I wrote this book really because I recognize that I am not the only middle-class woman in America who's well-educated and has a good job, but also has a troubled family dynamic, but that there are other families out there. There are parents, there are grandparents, there are aunts and uncles who have had to face the dilemma of an absent parent and having to explain it to a child. And so I wrote this book really so those folks could sit down with the child that's gone through this and read this book together and hopefully find a way to more easily and comfortably explain it to that child.
And so how old was your grandson when you presented him with this book?
Well, I just finished the book last year and talked about it with him. I thought about writing it probably for about 2 years before I finished it. There is a full circle moment to this book, and that is that this book has been illustrated by his mother. She's an amazing artist, and she really was a big part in helping me with this. So all of the pictures in this book are real pictures from our family that she illustrated for us. So it took her some time to put that together as well. So he's known about it for about a year and just recently seen it as it's just coming up to publishing now. Was
there a moment when you hand it to him? I mean, there's something about, you can see it on the pages, but then when you hold it, is there a kind of a cool moment?
Absolutely. you know, he knew it was coming, and I had been telling him we were getting closer to it coming. When I was able to hand it to him, you know, it was quite a big smile, right? I mean, that's us on the front, and we know that picture. We know the moment it was taken. We know the fun we were having and the laughter behind it. So it's a pretty special thing for both of us.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing your heart, because I think people do business with people they know, like, and trust, and you just revealed so much about you and your character, and congratulations on your success.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We're going to end with her website, which is corporateconnectionsllc.com. The great Brenda Siri. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
That's it from now. We'll see you next time.